Well, I may not know precisely how the Lost Nation Road got its name, but I know where I am now, and that's where we have to start every day. We're here at Marion Street and Breakerhoff Street at that wonderful North Country Cultural Center for the Arts with Sylvia Stack. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Gordy. Nice to have you back here again.
I'm delighted to be back. The reason we mentioned the Lost Nation Road is because we were on it a few weeks ago, and as we're driving down the road, we said, I wonder where that name came from.
Yeah.
So I went to see our good friend Addie Shields, Clinton County historian, and she copied a page out of a little book about Chateauguay and Churubusco and those areas, and it told about the people who first came to settle on the Lost Nation Road, but never quite defined why it was called the Lost Nation Road. So we'll ask people of Irish ancestry, with Irish ancestry from that area, and maybe we'll find out. So that has to be another chapter. There always has to be another chapter.
Absolutely.
We were here, and we've talked to you since you had this wonderful germ of an idea for a cultural center for the arts in downtown Plattsburgh. You chose the most incredible venue, the old Merchants Bank, and here you are, and you're underway. And do you feel good about what you've done?
I feel really great because of the great community support that we have and the reception that everyone gives to our different programs. And it's really been so gratifying. And we have no paid help here, so you have to be really happy and feel that you're doing a good job in order to have staying power. And we have.
It obviously works. We're recording this program in the second half of October 2001. October 4th was a pretty good day for you here, wasn't it? Isn't that the day this display opened up, or was it?
Yes, this display that we have here now opened on October the 4th, and it will run through December the 3rd. It's the weavers and carvers. The carvers are the Champlain Valley carvers, and their work is very, very professional. It's exquisite, and all of the weavings that you see on the wall are by Emmy Bedrogi, and Emmy is an artist, and this is her means of creating.
She is the definition of the word. These
Absolutely.
Are beautiful.
And they're all original pieces of art that she creates through the use of wool.
Isn't it amazing?
Yarn.
What can you tell us more about her? She couldn't be here today.
Yes, she's here. Yes, she's here now. Let me call her over.
Let's bring her over, and she'll be the first one we talk to as we continue our program from the North Country Center for the Cultural Arts in downtown Plattsburgh. We do have her here in person. Emmy, how are you?
Thank you, I'm fine.
Such a pleasure to meet you. I wasn't sure you could make it here today, and I'm so thrilled that you were.
I wouldn't miss it. I wouldn't miss it. It's my favorite topic, talking about my own weaving.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Where did this talent spark from?
Well, I have an Eastern European heritage. I'm Hungarian, and I was exposed to handwork in general and textiles and ceramics as a child. And then as a second career, I went back to school right here at Plattsburgh State. And my first teacher was Nina Holland. I'm sure she's very well known locally. And then I went on my own and I took classes in Mexico, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and wherever I could pick up information, I did that. And everything I learned is hanging on these walls.
I love it. How long have you been doing this?
Since 1972. And then gradually, you see the last 3 or 4 years work here. The earlier works were quite different. This is quite an evolutionary process. Start with small pieces and go to more complicated ventures. And
show me some of the earliest work you did. What's the earliest piece you have here?
The earliest piece here is
so different. And so
well, everything here is really within the last 5 years.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, let's just walk through a piece and explain it to me. I want to find out how a piece like this evolved.
Maybe this is the oldest piece on
1991?
this. Yes. This was a commemorative rug that I did for my oldest daughter's wedding.
Oh,
It's a family tree. The groom's family on the left and the bride's family on the right. And I believe that it is the best use of hand wovens is the personalized items, because that is something that you cannot buy in the store. You can't order it except from an artist who will do a one-of-a-kind for you specifically.
Well, tell me how. So you knew you were going to do this piece.
Yes.
Did the finished product pop into your mind? Did you just sit down and sketch it, or how does that
No,
work?
first I decide what size I'm going to make, and then I set up my loom according to the size, because there is a limitation based on how you start. This is done on a large floor loom. I can do up to 48-inch width. And then I gather the information that I want to include into the commemorative rug. So I have the names, as you see, the date, the family's names, and the left cypress tree, which is also symbolic, contains the siblings' names, the groom's siblings' names, and the
With the surname on the trunk.
yes, and the ancestors, the mother's maiden name in the root.
Isn't that?
And on the right side, the bride's siblings' names and the family name and the mother's maiden name.
Beautiful color.
And basically the rest is just filling in the spaces, so
Did you
it's
pick
visually.
the symbol? Do the symbols have any
pleasing.
significance to you, or?
Yes, well, the cypress tree seems to be fertility and continuum in my cultural understanding, symbolic understanding.
And
So-
did you let them both see it in the process, or did you surprise them with it? Or?
I finished it the night before the
Did you
wedding
really?
and stayed up all night, so I would have time to wrap it and present it right after the wedding ceremony. So it was just, but it was 6 months in preparation. This is 6 months work.
Oh boy, oh boy.
And I don't know if you care to see it. This is done in what we call the Persian knots. It's a technique that is used on the Persian rugs that you buy today. And the wonderful thing about this kind of knotting is that, contrary to other kind of works, the harder you pull a knot
tighter it
to
gets.
destroy it, the tighter it gets.
Isn't that
That's what makes it so durable and so lasting and truly heirloom quality.
And it's meant to be a wall hanging.
Yes,
Isn't it?
yes. You could walk on it, but please don't do it when I see it.
I can fully understand that. The colors, was it hard to choose the colors? The balance is absolutely beautiful
No,
and stunning.
It's not hard, because I have this basic belief that there is no such thing as too many colors. I love them so much.
Yeah, me too.
So I try to make a large enough contrast so what I want to accentuate will be accentuated, like the names I put with dark yarn on a light background, and the other names with light yarn on a dark background, etc.
They've been married 10 years already.
Yes, they have.
Where do they live?
Currently, the husband lives in Boston and my daughter lives in Texas. But
It's a beautiful hanging. Just absolutely spectacular.
so this is from this selection. This is basically the oldest
It is. Okay.
piece.
I love everything. Just explain some of these others for us here.
This is a Southwest influence. It all happened when I went and took a trip out to the American West. And these kind of patterns are foreign to my culture, but impressed me because I saw it out in New Mexico. And I stylized it my own way. I didn't copy it, but the flavor, I tried to imitate the flavor
And
that
you did very well.
that I was exposed to, and I was totally intrigued with this new pattern.
Did you do a lot of them or just these two?
I did about 4 of them, and these are the 2 that didn't sell yet.
Oh, okay, that makes perfect sense to me.
So,
Do you have a shop here, or do you work on consignment,
no,
or how does it work?
I don't have a shop, but I have a studio in my garage in the upper level, and all my looms are constantly set up, so in case the mood strikes me, I can actually go and do it.
How much is involved in the mood striking you? Do you have to just feel it at the moment before you sit down?
Quite
and
a
go crazy?
bit. Sometimes it's a desert, and sometimes it flows. Sometimes the idea comes, and then I'm very passionate about starting it and doing it, finishing it, and enjoying it. But sometimes there is no.
I know what you
Nothing
mean.
is happening
Yeah, the
sometimes.
inspiration has to come from somewhere, and all of a sudden it's there, and then it's not. Anybody who's ever created anything knows exactly where you're coming from.
Now, I have to tell you about that piece over there.
We're
If
just
I-
looking at this
oh,
one first. Start with this one.
This piece is an enlargement out of a wallpaper pattern.
Oh my goodness! Come on.
This branch was a small print on some wallpaper, and I elaborated on it and made it large.
That's truly one of the best pieces I've ever seen in my life. I
And
love
basically,
it.
it's a flowering branch. It was fun to do. Again, it's colorful because that is innate to my nature to use colors. It makes it enjoyable for me. And
That's really quite
so-
beautiful. Oh,
actually, the truth be known, that is the oldest piece in this whole room.
okay.
That is the
Well,
oldest.
that's wonderful. All right, what was the next one you wanted to show us? Let us walk down this way.
This one is called Winter. And I tried to use all the winter colors. I looked out the window and saw the white snow and melting snow at some places and all muddy. That's why I have the gray stripe.
Okay.
And icicles hanging. That's why I have the blue
Sure.
icicles, supposedly. And the color of winter, the dead trees, the dead branches, the browns, and the variations of the whites. And, this is an abstract work which I did for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then I didn't do it anymore. But this is quite recent. I think 2 winters ago I did this.
It's really quite
Yes.
stunning.
Yes, and the others were similar. There was, like I said, a year and a half or so where I was with the abstract genre, and this is the piece that I kept
Now,
from that group.
how does one advertise these pieces for sale, besides putting them in a show like this?
That is the only way I advertise it. I
One
have
show.
hopefully I have 1 exhibit a year, and hopefully I have something new to show all the time. And then the pieces that are sold you don't see. I have some reference pictures saved from most of them, but
So do people come to you and say, Emmy, I got an idea, can you do this for me? Do people come to you and say, can you help me make this certain piece for a
yes,
special...
if someone comes and wants me to weave their company logo for
Yeah.
the main office, I have done that. I made a company logo for Toronto for Superior Glove Company for the main office. And I did a commemorative rug for a Russian-American venture, and we gifted it to the company in Leningrad. So I do get suggestions, and I try to manifest the suggestion, and that's the market that's prearranged. But all the rest of my work is selling by being shown.
Are you
at
on the internet?
exhibits.
Do you have a website on the internet?
being artistic and being savvy on the internet might or might not take the same brain functions.
I can vouch for that.
I send a few emails, but that's where it starts and stops.
You've got to team up with somebody who can take wonderful digital photographs and put them on the internet, and you would be world famous in a heartbeat. This is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful work, and very satisfying. Yeah, let's move down a little bit and just talk about a couple more before we move on to the Woodcarvers today.
This is
this one.
my Lake Champlain landscape.
I don't see Champion there anywhere.
No, Champy was out to lunch that
Okay.
day. Yes, but I have the dandelions in the foreground, and the dandelions that went into seeds. It's a time lapse wall hanging here.
That's okay.
And the lake shore and the.
It's called artistic license. You can
Yes,
do whatever
yes,
you want to up there.
That's the greatest value in calling yourself artistic, is that you can make believe.
You like this
that it's
size the
this
best?
way. Yes, well, there is a backdrop to this size. This is not the maximum width, but this is the optimum width on the equipment that I own. So I don't use the edges where it would be iffy and the quality would be diminishing. I use the center of the largest loom I own, and this is all quality work. The tension is just right, and that's why I used this width on most of my large weavings. This is my favorite. I'm partial to this size.
Well, if they're your favorites, they're mine because they're beautiful. What's this one here?
Thank you. This is, well, again, I get suggestions, somebody said, I like your work, but there is so much color in it.
You'll never hear me say that.
Can you do something just a little bit more subdued? And again, I get exposure. I go see other artists' exhibits and pictures and books and museum pieces, etc. And this is my rendering of a black and white. And since I'm a woman, I thought, let's make a picture of women and their hairdos. And this is, I called it us.
Idea.
It's women.
Like
yes.
Okay.
It's us women, and we're more alike than we're different, as you can tell. And it's a pleasant piece. I always thought that some hairdresser will quickly buy it, but it didn't happen.
Well, it might. You never know. As a result of this program, I saw some giraffes in here.
And
Wow.
This is a relatively older piece. I read that children really observe the dark and light colors and the contrast better than we used to understand that they do. So I wanted to weave something bright. It was my excuse for doing what I like to do anyway. And I had a series of toy rugs. That was another period in my weaving career.
Okay.
So I had some gingerbread men and little toy soldiers from Christmas stories. And this is the one that, I have left over to show as representational of that period.
Did you always envision hanging it this way?
No, I envisioned this one on the floor.
Oh, you did?
Laying on the front of a crib or in a playroom on the floor. But we put it on the wall so it would be more visible and wouldn't be walked
charming
on.
to people of all ages. You've done so many different kinds of
this
things.
This is my rendition of some birds. Now, I know, we have a lot of carved birds, but this is the woven birds. Again, they don't have to be totally realistic.
Of course not.
But there is a little bit of Oriental influence in that picture because I went to Montreal. There was an exhibit of Oriental art, and I thought, well, I can stylize it a little bit. I think the flowers on the left, on the branch, and everything would have a slight touch of that feeling, and it's my rendition of it.
Oh, this is, oh, talk about color. Wow, look at this.
This is a fall picture. These are the fall leaves, the falling leaves. And then I just put it in a frame of grays and black. You know, the fall is coming. I thought I would.
The fall is
illustrate
here.
that.
And with that cool breeze this morning, we know it's here.
Do you get the feeling of fall
of
from this
course I
pink
do.
picture,
I
though?
love
Without having to put a label there that this is fall color.
That's great. Did you do the pillows as well?
Yes, yes. And I had what I call it my pillow period. For a while, I only did pillows.
Oh, I love it.
I only did pillows, and then I didn't do pillows. And then I thought, for this exhibit, I should have a few because it was part of my repertoire. And so these are very current pillows. Happened last month just for this exhibit.
How many pieces? Do you have any clue as to how many pieces you've done over your career?
Oh,
Thousands?
no, not thousands, but maybe hundreds. I could say hundreds.
Because it takes, you know, as wonderful as you are,
Thank you.
it takes a while to conceive the idea and then to execute it.
Yes,
and
but-
you told me about 6 months on that very special one.
Once I'm on a roll, then the spirit moves, and once while I'm doing one thing, I always think, oh, next time I'm going to do that instead. And then usually things happen in succession, you know, 3, 4, 5 at once, and then nothing for a while.
No.
And then something happens again that wakens up the creative spirit, and then things happen
But
again.
isn't it amazing that artists go through this? I don't know if it's an evolution or just a change, because who you are today is reflected in what you're making today, isn't it?
Absolutely, totally. And some of my earlier pieces that I look at, although I admire it because I look at it and I say, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
Gee, I did this, didn't I? This is mine. It's nice. But if I would sit down to do something today, it would be totally different because of the new exposure and the new information and the new dreams that I want to try and illustrate would be different.
If people are interested in talking with you about perhaps some of your future productions, how would they get a hold of you, Ann?
I have a studio at 132 Court Street, which is also my residence. I have my card displayed here right at the entrance, and I can be found. I'm in the phone book.
Not hard to find, right?
No, and I live in town since '72, and all my children live here. Somebody should be able to tell you how to find me.
Well, let's hope they flock to your door.
Oh,
You are
I
an
hope so,
amazing and
too.
wonderful artist, and it's been a great pleasure to meet you today and to invite all of our viewers, wherever they might be, to see your work, wherever they have to go to do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you,
been
Ann.
a pleasure.
Me too.
And I have to say that this is the most wonderful exhibit space that I have ever had the
I love it.
pleasure
We
to
like it too. We're so glad
display
you
my
feel that
work
way.
in, because this is truly an artist's dream
Isn't it really?
to have a space like this to show off.
Sylvia
the
will
work.
be delighted that you
Oh,
said that
oh,
because we concur.
We didn't talk about my latest.
Oh, I didn't
venture,
know
my-
these were yours.
Yes.
Well,
this
tell
is-
me.
This is the most recent.
Oh, my goodness.
the most
I thought
recent
this
thing.
was part of the woodwork here.
No, these are all my little painted
My goodness.
chairs. And the reason I love to talk about this is because this is my folk art. First of all, I'm a lover of folk art and usable art. That's what took me to weaving and textiles and everything. And of course, furniture is in this category. And all my sense of color and strong color comes to fruition in these chairs.
Back and front and top
every
and bottom.
pattern
and
that floats in my head can be easily executed on a painted furniture like this. And it's quite entertaining because I put the front and the back different. And this is more, if I can put it in this term, this is immediate gratification, painting is, while weaving is a very delayed gratification because planning and execution takes months. And this takes me a day. And
takes you a day. It's just absolutely so neat.
I always pride myself in not doing anything twice. So I don't have two matching patterns on anything because patterns are so abundant that I don't have to go back to the same thing. I can just do something different on each piece. And these are old school chairs, and of course
they are.
My thought was that nowadays we don't believe in corporal punishment, but we believe in time out. So when children have time out,
where can I spend my time out? I'm ready to go.
They can be entertained.
Those are.
I shouldn't hug this teddy bear so closely.
Absolutely beautiful. I had no idea.
Thank
You're
you
a
so
so
much.
multi-dimensional person and a great artist.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking
I'm
with
a
us today.
Plattsburgh graduate, and everything I learned it right here in Plattsburgh.
I
I was
love
a
it.
studio art major here, and this is my second career. Originally, I was a medical technologist.
Isn't that great? Who knows what, I always say, who knows where we're going to be tomorrow? Or who knows what will inspire you next week?
We don't know. Good thing we don't know.
I know. It's a very good thing in this day and age that we don't know. Thanks again for talking
Thank
with
you
us and
so
for being
much.
here, Em.
Thank you.
Told you the Woodcarvers were here. Perhaps you saw them as we were looking at the wall hangings and the weavings. Mike LaBerge, how are you, my friend?
Very good, thank you. And you, Gordy?
I'm doing terrifically well. You didn't tell me you had this kind of talent hiding somewhere.
I don't have any talents. It's just
It's amazing. How long have you been doing this?
just since I retired for maybe about 6-7 years.
That's great. How about this boat? What's this?
Okay. Well, it's the boat of Jacques Cartier, the guy that discovered Canada.
Oh, yeah.
It was built in France in 1500, and he discovered Canada in 1534, and that's the ship he had.
Did you base it on a painting or?
No, I had my sister-in-law was a librarian in Canada,
That helps.
and well, I asked her to write the government. I asked them if they have plans. That ship, the Canadian built one for the World's Fair in Montreal in 1976, and they built one, a replica of it. And I asked my sister-in-law to write the government, see if they have plans, and they send me 9 sheets of plans.
No kidding.
Yeah. So that was about 20 years ago. And I told my sister-in-law, I said, well, I'll make that ship before I die.
Someday.
Yeah, someday
You
before I
finally
die.
got to it. How long did it take, Mike?
Well, I started in October last year, and I finished it in July this year.
Oh, you should be very proud of it. Let's talk about some of the other pieces here while we have a moment. That's beautiful. The dancers.
Yeah. This I took from magazine, and this was in a carving magazine. Somebody from Canada carved it, so I just copied it. And same with the rest of it. It was all in
Those
the
are
carvers.
those are real neat. And you paint them yourself and enjoy
Oh yeah,
it.
well, yep.
Does it? Maybe it is him. Oh, golly. So you've been doing it about 6 years?
Yeah,
and
6 after I retired from the hospital,
Yep.
and
You
I
always have a
didn't
few-
want to drive my wife crazy, so
We all manage to do that anyway,
Yeah,
one
that's
way or
right.
the other, but you're getting very, very good at it. We love your ship replica. Is this the first time you've shown it in public, Mike?
yes.
So you're going to pick up grandchildren today.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. You still live in the west end of town?
Oh, yes, on Colgan Avenue, yeah.
I used to work in the radio business.
Yeah.
Mike would come cross lots and see me once in a while on a Sunday morning,
Yeah,
right?
right.
We're both music lovers from way back when. Well, we thank you very much for sharing your talent with us, Mike.
Okay.
Just keep the knife sharp, will you?
Okay.
Okay, my friend.
Thank you very much.
See you later.
Bye.
Moving right along. Jim Klein, how are you?
Fine, fine, good to see you.
Great. I knew you were a carver, but I've never seen this stuff. I see you always walking around with your beautiful pins on.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you started?
No, actually I started with the carvings, and I did this strictly as a therapeutic thing when I was recovering from heart surgery.
It
And,
obviously worked because you're looking great.
right, thank you. And I started by doing a couple of decoys, and then I got into the songbirds, and that's my favorite thing is the
Oh,
songbirds.
these are beautiful. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, any one of
These
them,
are
I
all
guess.
yours from here on
These are
through,
mine
huh?
from here across. Probably one of my earliest carvings is this baby robin. This was done.
Isn't that
I
charming?
started about 6 years ago, and that was one of the first songbirds that I ever carved. And that really sort of got me going on it and made me realize that it was something I wanted
You're
to
a
do.
stickler for detail, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I love I love to do the detail. Absolutely. This one here is one that has a great deal of detail in the burning. All of these feathers, the color you see there is actually burned into the wood. There's very little paint on, a little bit of a wash of white. This has won numerous awards and best of shows and competitions.
Oh, I didn't realize you bring them to competition.
Oh yes, yes. We have competitions all over the United States, and there's a world competition that's held in Maryland every year, and people from all over the world compete in that.
It's got to be fun just to meet other people who love to carve.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love every one. They look so absolutely realistic. How long does it take? I imagine it varies from one to the other, doesn't it?
Well, it does, because usually you have 2 or 3 carvings that you're working on at the same time. Very seldom do I just spend my time on one carving, because you get, a little bit overwhelmed by it and then you want to do something else for a while. And that's one of the reasons why I did the bird pins. It was something you do quick, and I started giving them as gifts to family members, and then other people wanted them, so now I have them in 6 or 7 stores around the country, and I sell them all the way across the United States and
A lot of the
Canada.
carvers are into pins, aren't they? Quite a few.
I think quite a few are. It's an easy thing to get started with because it's small, and people want to see results. And I teach classes on carving pins, and it's something that within 3 or 4 sessions you can have a nice finished piece of work. And where if you're doing a full-size bird, you might be laboring on it for months and months. So
Look at this hummingbird. Oh,
this hummingbird is this one.
absolutely spectacular.
This one honorable mention at world competition, and
No kidding.
It's won first place in about 3 other competitions. It was actually a carving that went quite quick. I had decided I wanted to do a hummingbird, and this bird is all one piece of wood. And the flower is one piece of wood. I just started with a block of wood and started carving down through. And it was a fun carving. It's probably one of my most fun carvings. And it's one that my daughters all want, so
Oh boy,
So
stand
it'll-
in line, kids.
it'll never leave the family.
Oh, it is really
it's,
absolutely beautiful. And the blue heron is next door.
The blue heron is another one that, this one was done strictly as a competition piece.
Oh, it was.
I carved this specifically to try my first attempt at world competition, and I won second place in my class with it.
No
So
kidding. That's really nice.
this
Such
again
a
is-
familiar bird for this area, We watch them go right behind our house
Oh, yeah.
every
well, I
day.
remember, of course, as a kid, I used to do a lot of fishing with my dad, and the herons were nesting all over along the lake, so it was one of my favorite birds. But again, this is all one piece of wood. From here up is one piece, with the exception of the plumes, which I did with little bamboo inserts. And then this is one piece of wood with the feet carved onto the piece of wood, and then the legs are done separately.
Just spectacular. And the bluebird.
And bluebird, that's our state bird, and it's something that
I wish we could get more of those state birds behind my house. I don't see them very often.
they're hard to entice. If you're out in the country, it's not
Yeah.
so difficult, but in residential areas, It's difficult. This is done as a competition bird also, but I've never entered it in any competition. But
It's about time.
yeah, I suppose. In competition, you have to carve and make everything. You can't, for instance, here where I have the wire, that you can't go out and get a piece of barbed wire. You have to make it yourself. So
No
this
kidding.
is all handmade.
It looks like it came right off the old fence on the back 40.
I looked at
doesn't
barbed
it?
wire for a long time. I know how they make it now. And this is all metal. These are all made out of copper sheeting. And then, of course, the bird, is one piece of wood.
What a wonderful hobby, vocation, avocation, whatever
love
it
it.
tends
I
to
love
be
it.
for different people. It's good for you, obviously good for you, and it's good for the rest of us who get to look at it,
Yes,
Jim.
it is. It's a great hobby, and you can do as much or as little as you like, and
I love
gives you a good sense of
Well,
accomplishment.
don't stop now. Thanks so much for allowing us into
Thank
your
you.
hobby.
I appreciate
What?
talking.
I've just got one quick question. How do you get the birds to pose, Jim?
Well, you put a little bit of aspirin in your bird seed.
It's hard to believe that just based on a photograph from memory you could get it so perfect, but they're just
Well,
absolutely
it's
spectacular.
the research of carving a bird probably in many cases takes as much time as the bird carving does.
We can understand
You have to
that.
get good photography. I work with naturalist photographers who will send me their photography and take measurements off of birds that are being rehabilitated. That's
Yeah,
the way
that's a
you get
point, too.
your information.
That's great. Thanks so much, Jim. Good luck,
you.
buddy.
Thank you.
In late September, I got a telephone call from my friend Linda Harwood, who said, Gordy, please, we've got an exhibition going on at one of your favorite places, and I knew exactly what you were talking about. And I heard through the grapevine, although I couldn't make it on that day, that October 4th was a pretty special day for you guys here. Over 100 people.
A very large outturning, yes. It's probably well that you didn't interview us that night because you wouldn't have been able to hear a thing. They were all mulling around and enjoying it all. It was really great.
That's why we picked this day a little bit later on in October to bring some of the woodcarvers in to talk about this, and I had no idea you were into the wood carving thing.
Well, 5 years ago, I saw an item and I wanted to buy it and I couldn't afford it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to learn this myself, and I surprised myself and I'm liking it.
Now, well, tell me a little bit before we start here about the group.
They're a great group of guys. It's a great club to
It's
be
called
in.
what again now?
Champlain Valley Woodcarvers.
Okay.
And there's 35 members, I think, and there's only about 5 girls. So if you want to come and join us, we'd appreciate more females.
Now, how would they
And-
go about when and where do you meet, and how would they find out more about it? Just by calling you or by?
They can call myself or any of the members that are interviewed here today. The May Curry Center on the Tom Miller Road,
Oh, yes.
that's where we meet twice a month through September through June. We take off in the summer. And when we get together, it's the second and fourth Tuesday evenings. And it's always show and tell. Whatever you're working on, you bring it in, and people always say positive things about it. It's wonderful for your
Better.
ego.
Oh, yeah.
And different people teach different classes. Jim Klein has taught the pins that I don't know if he showed any of his
Oh,
pins.
yes, he did.
But we all have learned how to carve many of the pins. Don Faskings will come in and do demonstrations on how to make a piece of wood look like a birch tree. Some people will come in with hints on painting, and someone will see his work in a few minutes does the wood spirits carvings out of the bark.
I love them.
And right now, there's a gentleman that's going to teach a class on how to make a powder horn for the old musket guns where they kept their powder in it. So there's several of us that want to carve out an old cow horn and polish it up and put the wooden cap on it so that it's very usable. It's going to be the real thing. The hardest part's finding cow horns nowadays. So if anybody has a source, I'd appreciate a phone call. And what else do we have this fall in classes going on? Walt will continue with the wood spirits. And it's starting out to be a short year because we had a couple meetings canceled, but
So many people are getting an interest in it, and people who had no idea they had this artistic talent.
I know
Our
it's
daughter
easy.
Sharon Pavone, we were We were driving downstate last week, and we talked about wood carving. Sharon is beginning, and she's going to be very,
excellent.
very talented. She's a creative young lady.
She is very creative and she's dedicated. I've taken a couple classes with Sharon.
Have you really?
Yes, I think
neat.
Sharon was in the bear class that we did.
Let's talk about your bear here. I love it.
Well, I'm a hiker and camper in the woods, and so I asked Don Faskings if he would teach us a class involving a bear carving. And we talked about a bear climbing into a log after something, and then he came up with the idea of the bear reaching for a bag, which when you spend the night in the woods, you have to hang your food, and it's really not the bears that get your food, though it's those dumb chipmunks.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
But we carved that, and I especially like the backpack, and I put my little 46er emblem in
Did
there.
you really?
Yeah.
Wow, and you expect me to see that with my
Well, yeah, you have to get them
trifocals?
just
I
right.
think I see the symbol on
Right.
there. That's really nice. All right, and you got...
This is a wood duck. Shall I pick it up, or is
You
it better
can-
for him
you-
to just
either way.
go down?
It
You're
doesn't
fine.
matter. That's beautiful.
And this I carved and detailed on my own, but Jack Barrett, who I hope will come in later, came to my house and we spent 2 8-hour days, I think, or maybe 3, painting it. And it was the first time I ever worked with iridescent powders. That was so exciting.
It's beautiful.
So he helped me on that. And his is over there. You'll see it later. And I'm glad they're separated because his is so much better.
Oh, come on.
But I'm learning.
Don't do that. You're doing beautiful work.
And these are the goldfinches. There was a class at my house that Don Faskings again taught. That's about 3 years ago. And the fun part of this is a couple kinds of brass rod that slides into itself, and you bend it. And then these are made out of wood, and there's molding paste over them. A lot of people think those are real milkweed pods, but
They sure look like
we
real
carved
pods,
those.
don't they? Huh?
and that was the first time I ever made my own bird feed. I didn't order them, so I was kind of pleased with that.
Oh, good for you, Linda.
And then this winter, or spring maybe, Don again, we went up to the conservation building at the fairgrounds.
Yes.
And he did this little elf owl with us, which is so precious. And I think that's life size.
Yeah,
They're from
tiny.
out west.
They're tiny. He was making one, I think, when we interviewed him the last time at Cumberland Head School. Yeah, that's beautiful.
He's a gem to have around
he's
to
the-
help
he's
us
the
out.
he's the
Go
ma-
up there with a problem.
He is the master. Well, let us walk over this way because we want to look at Santa Clauses. And, oh boy.
This-
It's getting that time of year, isn't it,
Right.
to think about it.
This Walt Miner is in our club. I think he's a charter member of the club. He kind of holds it all together. And this is one of his Santas.
I love
And
it.
This is a little hanging Santa that he made. And my favorite is the guy on the candy cane.
Ho, ho, ho,
Yeah.
up and away.
Yeah,
Can you say hi, oh silver?
something like that.
Great.
And then this is one of mine. I liked him with his sleeping position.
Yeah.
And that's one I did
Oh, I love it.
a couple of years ago. I try to give these to my granddaughter. I thought she'd be so tickled to have. No, Nan, I don't want that.
Are you kidding? Isn't that amazing?
Well, hopefully when she grows up, she'll appreciate them. But right now, she's not interested.
Oh, those are so neat. Everybody loves Santa Claus. Now, where are we going? You can step over the court and I'll
I'd like
follow
to show you a couple more things of Walt's
Okay.
because, like I said, he had to work.
Oh, boy.
He doesn't get to play like all
That
of
does
us.
happen, you know. Look at this. What
This
character,
is a
huh?
magnificent Indian bust. And let me get my note out here because I want to tell you what it's made from. This is made from butternut.
Oh, boy.
Probably some of you have furniture at home with butternut in it. And apparently it carves very nicely. This is done with chisels. All my carvings are done with power tools.
Yes.
And of course, Walt has, oh my gosh, you should see his workshop.
Really?
Oh, he has everything, and it's so neat and clean. But this is all done with those gouges and the hammer and everything that they did. And then he stained it beautifully.
Yeah, that's nice. Wow.
He has another one of a mountain man with the long hair and
Oh,
the
really?
beard. It's beautiful. And then he does, this is like he will teach it this fall with us. This is made out of cottonwood bark. You see that? And it's very, very lightweight. And again, that's made with little tiny gouges and chisels. Sharon's in this class
Yes.
with Walt. She's taking that with him. And another Indian that he did. So it's a fun club to be in, and everybody loves to share their knowledge, and we're all different personalities, but everybody gets along great.
Gee, wouldn't it be nice if they had 75 people at their next meeting based on this program? The more the merrier.
There's enough
though.
chairs.
Are there?
There's enough
That's
chairs
it?
at the Makery Center.
That's
we
important.
Can have it. Yeah.
Well, this is a delight. Who are we going to talk to next?
Let's see if maybe David would like to speak next, because he's got to get back to work too.
All right, let's do it.
Thank you very much.
It's amazing. I hope the camera can capture what my eyes can capture, because I'm inspired just to see this stuff. I would never make it as a wood carver, but I surely love to look at it. Dave Keniston, right?
Yes. Yep.
Dave, tell us a little bit about how you get involved with carving.
Well, I first started by carving a walking stick, and I was sitting in my apartment and just with a pocket knife, and I carved it, and I said it was pretty crude, but I thought about it, and then I contacted someone in the club, and I started taking classes by Walt Miner with the cottonwood bark,
Of course.
and I just went from there. I've only been
The
carving
rest is history.
a year or so.
You know, I've written columns about that, because when we were youngsters, every kid carried a pocket knife.
Always.
We played mumbly peg in school, and now if a kid brings a pocket knife to school, he's out.
Right.
But in those days, everybody, you know, whittled. Your father whittled, your grandfather whittled. You were making things, whittling, even if you're just shaving the end of a stick.
Right. Well, that's the way I started. That's the way I started, just by carving a stick, carving the bark, and end up carving some faces in it.
You know, even though you take a lot of classes, everybody's work is a little bit more individual, isn't it? Everybody's
Exactly.
just a little bit different, and your personality is it. Let's talk about this great piece here. I love it.
Well, thank you. We call them classes, but they're not really classes. It's a bunch of us sitting together, and we've got some really talented people in the club, and share their knowledge.
Sharing ideas and knowledge.
They share their knowledge. And this is one of the classes that Don Fasking taught. And we spent a lot of time on this little guy. It's an elf owl from Arizona, holding a sphinx moth, which is native to Arizona. And I think we managed to put in about 50 to 60 hours doing that.
Think about that, folks. Next time you want to just take a cake of soap and make something in a half an hour. Wow, 50 or 60 hours?
That's right. Well, I'm sure that, other people could do it quicker, but I'm a little slow.
And you
I'm a novice.
want to do it right. The moth itself is wonderful. What gave you the idea of having the moth and the owl?
It was part of the class.
it was.
We spoke about what we wanted to do, and we just decided that it'd be neat to have it holding something. Came up with a moth because it's so tiny, and that's the actual size of the moth. It's just,
Oh, sure.
and the owl
the actual
also.
size of the owl.
The owl also. They're only 6 inches.
Yeah.
Smallest owl in the world.
That's beautiful. Well, let's talk. You got some other pretty neat stuff right over here behind Calvin, and let's talk about it. Point it out and tell us about it.
Oh, the wood spirits. I really enjoy doing them. They're a lot of fun to do.
Look at this guy with a smile on his face.
And they're not wrong. No matter what you carve.
Exactly. Who
they're not-
knows,
they're
right?
not- they're not wrong.
I love it.
I just have fun doing it, trying to come up with different faces, different expressions.
Oh my goodness! And what kind of wood is that?
That's also cottonwood
It is
bark.
cottonwood bark.
Right. Cottonwood bark is very abundant in this area, but the tree has to be absolutely huge, hundreds of years old, to get the bark that thick.
No
Matter of
kidding.
fact, down at the monument is when they cut the trees this past winter, is where I got some of this wood.
Oh, is that how it worked? So you say, "Can I have that?" and "Can I have that?"
Well, the city of Plattsburgh left a lot of it on the ground for people just to gather up. I went and checked, and they said that's the reason it's on the ground, for people to pick up if they want, and so I helped myself.
That's great. And these are yours over here on this side as well.
Yes.
Oh yeah, let's talk about him.
The little hiker is, that was my first carving, my first real carving other than the walking stick. But that's the first thing I carved. It's not the greatest, it's not the...
But it's you through and through.
Well, I think so.
Well, maybe not the white hair yet, but you're
Well,
getting
I'm,
there.
I'm
Dave.
getting there real quick, real quick.
That's really neat. All right, over here we have more spirits.
The wood spirit on the left is also my first one, the class that Walt Miner taught. He's such a great guy. He walked us through it, and I'm pleased with the way it came out.
Oh, I love them. You see, quite a few people also do wood spirits, but they're all just a little bit different, and these are as nice as any I've ever seen in my life.
Exactly. Wood spirits, there's a legend that goes with wood spirits. It's said that, let me see if I can remember, women, children, and men of good heart will be the only ones to see them, and they're protectors of the forest.
Oh, isn't that
So
neat?
if you're lucky enough to see one in the forest, you'll be blessed with good luck.
And this piece lent itself to doing too, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
That's great. How many of the wood spirits have you done? Is this your entire?
No, I've done quite a few more than this, but these are ones that I enjoy looking at the most. As a matter of fact, a lot of these have been gifts to a member of my family. It's a small one. My grandson just loves them, and I made that one for him, and that hangs in his bedroom.
How could anybody not love them? They've got an innate charm to them, and maybe even personality down inside there. We know there's a lot of you in there, Dave, right?
I think so.
I think that's wonderful. So what currently are you working on?
I'm working on some Santa Clauses for
Are
Christmas.
you really?
Right.
We
Right.
saw some pretty nice Santa Clauses before, and this is the time of year.
Right.
Have you shown anything before today?
No.
In public?
I-
This is
I'm-
it?
I'm very new to this. I've only been carving a year or so.
You've got to be kidding.
I just
You
enjoy it.
had a talent somewhere. You must have been.
Well, it's a lot of it is the instruction and shared knowledge of the club.
You're very humble, but we can see an immense talent
Oh, thank you.
budding forth here. I hate to see what it's going to be like in 20 years. Huh?
Well, I hope I'm still around to be doing it.
That's great. Well, we're delighted to have you with us today. Just keep carving.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Whether or not you've ever seen wood carving or enjoyed it before, I hope you look at it with a different eye after this program today at the North Country Cultural Center for the Arts, located in the old Merchants Bank at the corner of Marion Street, Brinkerhoff Street in downtown Plattsburgh. We're so delighted Linda invited us here today. Bob Brown, right?
That's right.
You are amazing. Calvin said, I don't know if he said it facetiously, but he looked at this and he said, wow, you made your own vest? And you said, of course I did.
Yeah. This is buckskin, and leather is very unforgiving. You can take your fingernail and make a mark in it. Then by the same token, you do what I do, wood burning. You're using heat, and when you put the pen down on here, there's no changing it.
That's it, baby. You better get it
Yeah.
right the first time or live with it forever. I would never have guessed that it was wood burning. Do you have a special wood burning tool for
Oh,
using
yes.
on buckskin?
I have to stop and correct you somewhat in that the right name is pyrography, and pyrography is burning on anything,
Okay.
and from paper to leather to whatever, and gourds, wood, and to back it up, I entered this vest in a show in Maine, and lo and behold, the show was called Wood Burning, and they wouldn't accept it.
Come on.
No, honest. So I went back. I got them to change it to the pyrography, and the next year I went back, and of course it won a blue ribbon.
You're a very clever guy. Turn around. I want to show people what the back looks like. This is absolutely incredible. Look at the eagles, trees. That's amazing. Now, did you have to sew this buckskin, or did you buy the vest ready-made?
No, I made it from
You
scratch.
made it?
Oh, yeah. And some of it is glued. The seams are rolled and glued. And another thing I should point out, if you've ever had gloves, leather gloves, and had them get wet, and you put them near they wrinkle up.
Yes, I have.
that's the same
I've
with
been
me.
there, done that.
Same with right here. And it's very tough to work on because with the heat, I'm taking the moisture out of the leather, so therefore it wants to wrinkle. So this was my most difficult task.
When did you make it?
About 4 years ago. I've been doing this since 1989. I'm self-taught.
Are you really?
Oh, yes. The only course I really took was I went to North Country Community College for wood carving, which was not wood burning.
Yeah.
And I belong, of course, to the Champlain Valley Woodcarvers, and I'm one of the only ones that predominantly does wood burning. And I've won 74 ribbons.
Have you really?
Oh, yeah. All the way from Boise, Idaho to the Connecticut show, the Maine show, local show, the local fair, everything.
One thing to finish a piece and say, I like that. Another thing to show it to the public and critical, very critical eyes and say, ooh, they like it too.
Well, in Maine, I even had the People's Choice Award, which I won that. And there's various categories. And I think, like one of them pointed out, there's certain things. To enter a piece, it must be predominantly wood burning. You can have certain color. Now, for instance, an owl has yellow eyes. To do an owl, you'd have to paint the eyes yellow. And I've done a life-size owl. This is my prime piece. This is one all the ribbons, that one down in Connecticut. And I sold it for $300, and I borrowed it back to show here.
Oh, is that what you...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And these here, and these carvings I've done.
Well, let's first of all talk about this piece for just a minute, Bob.
All right.
Tell me what inspired it.
This is made of cabinet-grade plywood, which is kind of expensive. And the cherry frame, which I'm not a woodworker, but I done the blue line. A lot of people don't even know what the blue line is.
Oh, yes, we know very well what the blue line is.
And then I decided to try to put a bit of all kinds of wildlife in it: black bear, brown bear, eagle, coyote, fox, wolves, snowshoe rabbit, and of course fly fishing.
Oh, yeah.
But tell the people who don't know what the blue line is what it is.
The blue line is the line around the Adirondack Park.
And it evokes various emotions among different kinds of people, depending on whose ox got gored, right? Every now and again.
It's an interesting piece, too. This is one piece of wood, and even the ball, it's called a ball in a cage.
Yep.
And a piece of mahogany, and very, very difficult to carve because you're not following the grain of the wood.
Oh, yeah.
This shorebird I've done. I'm not into the bird carving like the most of the rest of the members. I do predominantly pictures.
Well, I'll never forget the word, what is it, pyrography?
That's right.
That's a brand new one on me. I always love, that's when you start out not being too smart. You can always get an education wherever you go, and I did that today. That's a beautiful dog.
Chocolate Lab. To back up a minute, I sharpen chainsaw chain as a hobby. I don't repair them at all. And I got acquainted with some loggers, and I asked them what they were cutting, and I'd have them bring me an 8-foot log. This is cherry, and I'd swap them some chainsaw work, and then I'd have it cut and stickered for a year to dry, and then planed and sanded, and then I would cut the various pieces of the board. Sometimes there's knots, and I would try to incorporate them to not waste the wood.
Sure.
And other times I had to cut them out. And cherry is very good to work with.
It is.
For this, yes. I do it butternut when I can get it, but cherry is one of my biggest woods because it's even when you're burning it. If you wanted to burn a fox, which is kind of a reddish coat, cherry tends to do just that. Some of the woods you use when you're burning, it burns it black or brown. To back up what people, when I call it burning, I have to relate it to the wife doing ironing. She turned the heat up on the iron and scorched the shirt. Well, that's what this is in a sense, only I use very delicate tools. The tool I use is almost like a scalpel that a surgeon would use. And I started with a $25 tool, and now I'm using a $300 tool in order to do the detail work.
But it's a beautiful job. Beautiful job. And you've been doing this for how long?
Since 1989.
Oh, that's great. Don't stop.
I'm a retired conservation officer, 27 years, and this is why I like to do wildlife.
That's great. Did you work from a photograph on the dog?
Generally, I have a picture that I look at in order to get some of the dimensions or some of the ideas of the shading for it. One of the secrets of this, when you really look at it, is the shading. Even like that bear,
sure,
to darken it around the shoulders,
Yep.
to emphasize it.
It's great. Thanks again, Bob.
All righty.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Anybody who has lived around the North Country or visited here very often knows that my friend Kit Booth is a woodcarver. He's done many things in his lifetime, and Calvin said, "Hey, you got street clothes on today." Normally we see him in regalia that's more closely related to the Battle of Plattsburgh in the War of
right.
1812.
That's where I spend most of my time these days,
That's
Gordy.
been a lot of your passion over the last few years,
Yes, it
hasn't
has. It really has. And it's taken away from my carving, to be honest with you. I spend more time on the Battle of Plattsburgh than I do on carving these days.
But you know, it was something that needed to be done at the time, and you haven't even begun yet. I mean, we're just
wait till you
working
see
up to a
next year.
fever pitch.
Wait till you
right?
see next year. We've got that started now.
Have you really?
We're going to have a big parade, among other things. But that's not what we're here to talk about today,
Well,
is
that's
it?
okay, but we have to talk about it every now and again.
Okay.
You've been doing wood carving for as long as I can remember, and
Since
maybe
about 1984. Yeah, I
1984?
started about 1984, yeah.
started with birds, or
Started with decoys, as a matter of fact. Don Fasking was doing a adult education class at Peru School back in 1983 or 4, somewhere around there. And I just happened to see it in the newspaper and went down that Tuesday night and started, and I stayed with him all winter, and then I went and studied with him for a whole next year on a one-to-one basis, and we've just gone from there. I've gone from there. He and I have, I don't take lessons from him anymore, but he's a good friend, and we compare notes.
that's wonderful. All right, talk about some of your pieces here.
Well, this is this larger piece here is an immature goshawk, and I saw one time, and I just you know, it's funny what inspires you to create a carving. But I saw one of these, and I thought, gee, I got to do that. I want to do that. It's quite different because it doesn't look like the mature goshawk. The plumage is quite different. The feet are a different color. The bill is a different color. The striping on the breast on the mature goes this way horizontally, and on the immature it goes vertically. So this is all one piece of Tupelo wood. And
Tupelo wood. I
Tupelo.
never heard of Tupelo
Well,
wood.
practically everybody that you've seen here today carves in Tupelo. It's a wood that comes from the bayous of the south, and it's grown in the swamp. They only take a short section of the tree to use for carving, and the rest of it is too hard and they can't use it. And so we buy it from our suppliers, and as I say, this was all one piece, and you start at the top and work down. That's about the way it works.
Yeah, just like that. Start at the top and work down. Get your knives, everybody.
Simple enough, Gordy.
Ah, sure. Sure. It was what Michelangelo said. I just keep chipping the stone away until the picture comes out. Okay.
This is, of course, a ringneck pheasant, and the reason I did this was because my son got one year, and he gave me the skin, and so I kept it in the freezer for quite a while, and I finally got around to doing it. And there's so many different kinds of feathers and different patterns on these feathers that it just was an intriguing thing that I had to try. So that's why that came out that way. I even made a little
Look at
little
that.
grasshopper for him to eat.
Come on. You got a
Stuck him in the weeds here.
Jiminy Cricket himself is
Jiminy
showing up
Cricket.
today.
That's right. That's right.
Gee, that's a nice piece, kid.
This is a least bittern, and this was an interesting challenge of, for one thing, this is all carved in one piece with the exception of the cattail leaves. And so we had an exercise in carving moss here and in carving duckweed over here and rocks, carving the rocks on the back.
Oh, the rocks are beautiful.
as well as doing the bird. This is a least bittern in an alarmed position. And when they become alarmed and they don't want to be seen, they take this vertical position with their beak up in the air so that they sort of blend in with the foliage that's going vertically around them. And they'll just stay there and freeze like that, and you can't see them in the foliage. And then this over here is one of my favorites. This is the kestrel, the American
yeah.
kestrel.
Beautiful.
On rocks. This is again carved all of one piece of Tupelo. And these are native birds, as all of these are native birds that I'm doing here. I seldom do an exotic bird, but once in a while I get into something like that. And very often I'll look out the window and see, I remember I did a cardinal once. It was just as the first snowfall came and it was cold and windy, and that cardinal was sitting on a branch just outside the window, all kind of fluffed up like this, looking real cold with snow coming down and landing on its back and on its head. And so I had a mental picture of that. I went and drew a picture of it, and then I went and carved it, all fluffed up. And I don't have that many anymore. I sold that along with several.
Well, before the 80s, before you got into carving, what did you do that was creative before that? Did you draw or paint or?
No, I always wanted to, but never did. I would like to paint too. I'd like to try that sometime, but I wanted to sort of perfect what I was doing with carving before I started something else and not get too much of a shotgun approach to all these artistic things. But painting would be something I would like to do eventually.
Great. And you will.
When I get old,
you
Gordy, when I get old. When you and I get old, we'll paint.
We never acknowledge that. It's just, my famous phrase is, next chapter, who knows what's going to be around the next corner.
That's true.
Whatever it feels like today, that's what you're going to do. What are you working on now in terms of carving?
Carving, right at the very moment, I'm working on a chickadee. I just finished a cardinal, yeah. And as I say, the Battle of Plattsburgh has taken so much of my time that I don't really have a whole lot of time to devote to it. So instead of doing 15 or 20 birds a year, I might do 3 or 4. But that's okay.
Yeah, like
That's
I said,
okay.
there was
we
there
move
was the
on and
need.
we move back and forth in these things, and I'm sure that I'll get back to this at some point. I'll click in on it and get back to it.
You've done so many fun things in your life that to look back on it, you must be pretty satisfied at this point.
Yeah. We've had a good life, and we're looking forward to the rest of it.
And relishing good health.
Yes, sir.
That's very,
Yes,
very
absolutely.
important to do that too. Kent Booth, thanks a lot
Sure.
for your friendship.
Thank you, Gordy. Thank you, Calvin.
We've taken advantage of every little nook and cranny here at this cultural artistic presentation in downtown Plattsburgh now, and Tony Terrell's with us. Everybody loves walking sticks. I don't know what there is about it, but I'm not sure that I want.
Those are my favorites.
I don't know if I'd want to be walking with any of these. They're almost too beautiful to take outside.
I've sold a lot with 46ers.
Have you really?
A lot of these are strictly for show, but there are a lot of them I have home for working walking sticks.
Everywhere you go, every craft show, every presentation, somebody's making walking sticks. All right, let's talk about, what are your favorites here? Let's talk about them.
These are, this particular stick here is a tag alder. So
Yep.
I'll start in the winter, fall and winter, going into tag alder swamps, selecting the straightest stick you can find and letting them cure for about a year. An inch a year is about the time that
Is it?
before you can even start working them. This one here just had a particular curve up at the top.
Oh,
and
look at this.
and
Wait
it
a
had
minute.
it was there. It was an eagle claw.
Wow,
That's-
that is spectacular.
That's out of the one piece of wood. These here, again, these are Tupelo Confederate and Union soldiers. This one here is a
Oh, little frog.
little frog, and that actually I dug out of a swamp. It's an ash stick, and the root is the frog itself.
Isn't that amazing? The bears, absolutely.
Owls, I got a lot of owls, but they don't last long. I sell them. They're gone.
People like the owls. Isn't that what is our fascination with owls? I'm not sure. I
I
like them all. Look at this. Isn't this neat? Sal Riggy made me a tall walking stick that's so beautiful it looks like almost looks like a pool cue, but he did the larger Confederate soldier
Yes.
on the top, and I was just so blown away by it, but I would never walk outside with it. Never walk outside with it. It sits next to my fireplace.
They're special. They're special.
How-
But
how-
you've seen a lot of beautiful artwork, and they take a lot of expensive tools to do. But you could do this whole thing right in your kitchen.
You could do this whole thing in your kitchen.
No, with just a regular paring knife.
One potato, two potatoes.
One potato, two potato. You don't have to go out in the swamp and get expensive wood.
Who would ever guess that people would be carving potatoes? Only on this show.
You can get children that you can supervise them and make different. It's going to come a nose here in a minute.
It's amazing.
This is how probably a lot of people get started,
Really?
just to fool around. And there's part of it you could use, and these are just some things that I've got.
Oh, tiny spoons. Look at this.
Tiny spoon, and there comes part of an eye.
That's,
The
who would
sharper,
ever dream?
the sharper your instruments, the better it's going to be.
I can see what people are going to be doing around the kitchen table, saying,
But
"Never
you
mind the
could do this,
pumpkins.
and
Get us
here
a
it is,
potato."
pumpkins, and you can do the same thing with a pumpkin.
Oh yeah.
Hollow out that eye.
That's how you sharpen those skills, huh?
Get it good and deep in here.
That's pretty cool. Some people are into carving soap and.
This is how my father. I used to sit around in the cellar
I know.
watching my father carve these beautiful working duck decoys,
Oh, really? Your dad?
all winter out of
So
cedar.
that's where the
And
inspiration
here
comes
is
from,
what
huh?
he would give me a potato and a little thing, and I never knew I picked up anything from him. But the knack was there and the talent was there, and he brought it out.
What a
It was-
great
it was
idea! I
absolutely
think
super.
you've done some
Yeah.
inspiration here. We hope among the
Well,
young
that's-
people and the
that's-
older people.
That's just a start. It's just a beginning, and
That's
it's a-
great.
it's a
So
lot
how
of
many
fun.
walking sticks have you made?
probably
you
perhaps 100.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Do you do other things besides the
Oh
sticks?
yes.
Or
Oh
do you?
yes. Yeah.
Birds, regular birds.
Birds.
and-
Birds. We finished an Indian over here. We've got 2 or 3 Indians that I didn't bring in. A lot of relief carving. I love
do?
relief carving.
I wonder why the
Yeah.
why the relief. Just fascinated by the idea. Huh?
It's different. It's 3-dimensional in a 2-dimensional medium.
That's now that
like a
you put it
block
that
of wood.
way, and it's
Yeah.
perfectly
Try to
clear.
get depth and
Yeah.
yeah.
So you like the relief stuff, huh?
Yes, I do very much.
And you've been doing this since you actually started observing your dad and starting carving as a child,
when
but
I was-
seriously.
I got into it serious when I retired in 1995, so I haven't been going very, very long.
Well, it's a very intensive thing once you get started.
I
mean,
lost my carving knife.
Uh-oh.
I couldn't find it, so I had to join the wood carving club here in Plattsburgh. And in doing so, somebody was teaching a class in the back, and I said, "Oh my God, look at these beautiful birds and stuff, and the fish, and all these different things." And from there, it was just that
Isn't
was
it amazing
it. It just
how
took off.
You never know.
I bought a new knife, and away I
Did
went.
you? A new knife, and here we go. I really like that bear. That's very, very.
The bear is I
very
found
special.
Found the 6-pointer. Well, actually, this is a 3-point, but 6-point buck on Valcour Island that nobody happened to get that year. Shed its horns, so the horns are from Valcour, and I think this is out of Tupelo. Carved the bear out of Tupelo. A lot of fitting, a lot of tinkering, a lot of
just the right
time,
way.
and got him the right way, and got him to sit on that, and so there he is.
That's beautiful. Tony, thanks so much.
Well, you're more than welcome.
Happy carving.
Yeah.
Let me see. The last time we talked to Don Fasking was at Cumberland Head School during a Lake Champlain day, and we had a lot of fun and talked for a while and looked at some of your works in progress, and there's been a little water over the dam since then. You told me you went where? Wyoming?
I was out in Wyoming hunting. Yeah, and I had an expo out there that I demonstrated at for 3 days.
Did you
It was a
really?
good
Was that
time.
fun?
I had a really enjoyable time.
Well, you'd been to Wyoming before.
Oh, yeah, quite a few times.
More than
Probably 12 or 14 times since I tried to retire years ago.
We knew we'd end with the master here, although in a sense, everybody who does this work becomes a master of their own little sharp knives and implements as they go. And although some of these carvers here today were pretty humble about how far they've come compared to your work, we admire anybody who just gets into a piece of wood and starts chipping away at it, don't we? Huh?
Well, yes.
I think
It's very relaxing. It's a good way to get away from the day's doldrums. You can, you concentrate on something that's completely different. And
I think it's really important. I mean, we can almost put everything that we talk about from now until who knows when into the perspective of September 11th, 2001. And everyone has to find a quiet place.
Right.
And if we don't, then we're all in deep trouble. And this sounds to me like the perfect quiet place.
It is. It is. I can get rid of all external thoughts when I'm working on birds like this. I go down.
Time takes on a whole new meaning when you're in
I'm
there.
always in trouble. Well, what are you going to do now? Well, I'm going to go down and carve. You got a place to hide. So I do. I go down and just concentrate on a piece. And a piece may sit around for months and months without being touched at all. And
That's okay.
then all of a sudden I'll get the urge to
Yeah.
finish it up, and I'll work on it. Sometimes I start on a bird and I can't put it down. I'll stay on it until it's completely finished.
Have you ever had a piece drive you completely crazy because you just couldn't get it the way you had to?
Now that I'm
Do you?
working on that are driving me nuts.
Are they really?
No, I don't have a problem with the bird. It's the way the bird is going to be presented that bothers me. I shouldn't start a bird until I know exactly how the whole piece is going to come together. But I'll start on the bird because I want to do the bird. I'll have the bird finished. Now, how am I going to present the piece? Sometimes it'll sit around for a month or more before I figure out exactly what I want that bird to do.
That's why it's good to work on several things at one
Right, I
time,
do. I
so
work
you can
on
always have
several things.
something to finish.
I work on several things at the same time.
Don, you told us before, but when did you first begin carving?
Oh, let me see. 60 years ago.
Really? As a young?
No, yeah, I carved a little with my grandfather. He was quite a carver with quite a reputation in Wisconsin. He's a Swiss carver, and he carved farm animals, carved an entire farm out of a white pine stump. All the animals, the split rail fence, the house, the outbuildings, pliers, you name it, everything.
Does a photograph exist of it, or?
Well, it's somewhere in Iowa. I haven't been able to trace.
That pins it right down, Don. We'll head right out and take a
things
picture
that was
of it.
supposed to go to me, and it didn't get to me. It ended up in Iowa somewhere. Someday I'll probably have it. But I started carving with him. Did little planter things, little birds that stick. Put on a little piece of wire and put in somebody's planter. That's how I started out. I left it go until about 1952 or 3, and then I picked up the knife again and I started doing things. And I did a lot of freeform sculpture in the beginning.
Yeah.
I like girls, I like the female figure, and I did a lot of things in and around, smooth, and got into birds.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, the rest of it's history.
The best part of this wonderful talent that you have and you have displayed here as Don is that you've shared it with other people by teaching classes and joining with people and encouraging people who thought they couldn't do it.
Yeah, I like teaching people. Out in Wyoming, I had a young lady that just kept pestering me. I want to do that. I want to do that. So I told her on that Sunday morning, if you get here at 8 o'clock, we'll spend 2 hours, and we'll see if you can carve this little owl. It's a little owl. It was only 2.5 inches high. It's a pin, so you're really only doing half of the owl. And it was amazing what that girl produced in those 2 hours. And she was so tickled. I expect to hear from her. You know, she's going to be a good carver someday.
Isn't that,
She's
that
really,
could be,
really
you never guess that the epiphany of your life comes with Don Fasking and a knife and a little piece of wood, but for some people I imagine it can, because you unlock those hidden talents that people never knew existed down about 3 layers down, huh?
Yeah, I've helped everybody that's in this show. I think I've helped at one time or another with some of their carvings. But I'm always available to help people.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you've actually made North Country your home for many, many years, haven't you?
Well, yeah.
Off and on.
Yeah. We got here in 1962.
Yeah, just a year after I did.
Yeah. And retired in 68 from the service at Plattsburgh and been here ever since. So I'm not quite a native, but I'm getting closer every year.
Those people who saw our program recorded at Cumberland Head School some months back saw a larger collection of things that Don had done, and a lot of things that were in progress so that when you talk to kids, you could say, here's what it starts with,
Mhm.
and here's what
Yep.
it looks like. And so they can see the development, and it works out pretty well. What do you have? I asked you this before, but do you have a favorite piece of all time? Or is it the one you've
The
just
next
finished?
one, the next one I'm working on is my favorite piece.
That's fantastic.
That's kind of the way it goes.
That's fantastic. Are you going to stay here all winter? Or you're going to
No, we'll be leaving shortly after Christmas and be back in April or earlier if things go well.
Whatever it takes. But
Yeah.
this carving is your life now, right?
Yeah, that and helping out my grandkids and
Well, that's important too.
the rest of the family.
Anybody?
But,
How many other family members are into the carving?
Into carving? I got two of my sons carve very well when they have time, Kirk and Eric.
Yeah.
And two of my grandsons are doing some carving, and I did a little bit with them out in Wyoming this year again. And I have some coming up that are very interested in it.
See, all you got to do is light the spark and let nature take its course, right?
Yep, that's it.
Well, that's
But a lot
great.
of talent in the family. I just hope they can hang on to it.
There's a lot to be said for creating things, and what a great way to create things. We've learned an awful lot today, and we're going to end up by talking with Sylvia before we leave. But Don, thanks so much for your contribution and for all your help to the people in the North
It's
Country.
good to see you again.
Great to see you, Don Fasking. There are other things you can carve besides wood, and we have living proof here. We've got some bone carvings. Who's done these carvings, Sylvia?
This is Leonard Gibbs,
Yeah.
and he has done, this is deer bone.
It is, huh? We learned from Don that was a hip
Yeah.
bone of a young deer.
Right.
Okay.
He also does the little Kachina dolls.
Yeah, they're so neat.
Oh, they really are, and he has such beautiful detail on them.
Look at this with the beads.
So this is all of Leonard's work. Here's more bone, and he has the carvings on both sides.
Oh, yes, boy. Who knows where bone carving first took place, huh?
Oh, I'm
long,
sure,
long, eons and eons
Yes.
ago.
Another one has a beautiful
Oh,
use
look
of the
at this.
beads.
Is that neat? Look
Yeah.
at the lips.
Yeah.
Man, that is
This is
so
more
cool.
of the bone.
Yeah.
Has beautiful lines, and the way it's
Yeah. I
finished
love it.
off, it's really beautiful. This is my favorite right here of his.
Oh, look at this.
It's really beautiful.
Oh, my.
And what's nice is the way he works his design in with the shape of the bone.
Maybe we'll get a chance to interview him sometime. That's
Yes, I'm sure you'll like his
That's
one here.
pretty neat. You've got so many wonderful people represented, reminding our viewers that we couldn't get everybody here today. I think we did very good.
I
Linda
think we
did well,
yeah,
didn't
she
she?
sure did. And those are top quality carvers. You
Oh,
can
the
see by
best.
the shows they go
The
to and
best.
everything.
I hope we make everybody wish they had been here.
Well, I have one other carver, and that's Sharon Pavone.
My daughter, isn't that beautiful? She
Yeah.
told me she had some walking sticks
Yes.
down here. Oh, I like this.
They're the wood spirit walking stick. Can you see the beautiful carvings on them?
Oh, boy. Yeah. She's out collecting pieces of wood almost every day, one place or another, and they've got a beautiful camp above Malone, out the Whippleville Road and up by Drain Pond, and so it's their haven, their little getaway, and they love to walk in the woods. And when they do, that's what you do: pick up sticks to
Well,
carve.
some people believe that your walking stick gives energy to you.
Yeah. I believe it holds me up when I trip over the stones.
Yeah.
What else have we got in here, Sylvia?
Well, this is one other artist who's not here today. Her name is Deborah Hardy.
Yes.
And Deborah works with very unusual fabrics, and she creates sculptures out of them.
This is
Isn't this
amazing.
Yes. This is
Wow, look at
yes,
this.
and see, this is a revolving.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Lazy Susan.
hmm This
Crystal
is
ball.
called
There
the
she is.
yeah the Three Gypsy Crows is what this one is
Oh,
called.
Isn't that great?
She has a lot of imagination, and she puts it all together so well. This is another one.
Oh, that's a
right
nice one.
here.
That's a nice one. Let me get over here next to you so Calvin can see it.
Okay, and
That's special, isn't it?
it is. It's called All Women Are Goddesses.
Oh, look at that.
She's really very imaginative. And these are also her Luna wall hangings. That she has the three right here. And then this is also a very interesting little one right over here. It's one of my favorites.
All right, we're following you. And Calvin's following me. Doesn't have any choice. He's attached to the
I
cord.
think this is really interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And she also has 3 against the wall over here.
All right. Oh, yes. This is just everybody to a person, a man and a woman, have proclaimed the beauty of this venue for this kind of display. The woodworkers are so delighted to be here.
They are.
This place was meant to be for your cultural arts center.
It sure is. And when I think that they might have made a parking lot out of it, it makes you shiver, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Yeah,
Yes,
these are beautiful pieces. My eyes went by them when I was looking up before.
This is Luna Moonbeams.
Yeah.
And, you notice she has a lot that has to do with celestial bodies. And this is Luna's Spirit. Her craftsmanship is so beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Every detail is so nicely done.
Very, very special.
Yeah. Well, Gordy, I think you've seen just about everything here today.
Just when we think we've seen it all, we see something new and we love it. This display will be here this year, even though we're not sure when our program will be actually aired on your favorite cable television system. Until when?
This will be here until the 27th.
Okay.
There's one other new addition that we didn't see.
Well, let's talk
You didn't
about it.
notice that I have a concert grand piano.
Yes, I did. The minute I
you?
walked in the
Okay.
door.
I've been having a piano fund, and we've raised the money to buy piano. We don't have it quite paid for yet, but we are now giving concerts. And this will be our second one on October 27th. Rebecca Heller, she's in her last year of school at Oberlin College, and she'll be accompanied on the piano. She plays the bassoon, and she'll be accompanied on the piano by Dave Carpenter, who's a very well-known piano
Of
teacher
course,
in this area.
and a very close personal friend, a wonderful guy. He and his wife have touched so many lives in terms of their music, both at the Saranac Central School for David for many, many years, and his wonderful wife in teaching piano lessons to half of my kids and
Kara,
half of the rest of the kids in the world. It's so great occasionally to spotlight those people who not only have an exceptional talent, but the ones who choose to share it with other people, like Don Faskins and all the other people who are here. They do. I love it when they say they have their meetings. They have show and tell. They bring their latest project, pass it around, make suggestions, and learn by it. And what a wonderful thing to do to pass the time of day.
Absolutely. It's just more, I know they're trying now to get more young people involved in it, which is great because it's going to be a lost art if they don't.
I think so too. Sylvia, we love everything you do.
Thank you very much.
May the good Lord give you the strength, the good health, and the inspiration to continue this for another 70 or 80 years. And then to pass the torch to younger people then.
Yeah.
Because neither one of us will be able to get up the steps out there.
That's for sure. Right.
But I think it's just sheer providence that the opportunity came for you to be here. And I think what you do is not only fun, but it's very, very important.
Well, I really couldn't do it. I'm just one person here. I have a lot of people that on my board that are really great. And most importantly, this is a membership organization, and if it wasn't for our members, we would cease to exist. So the greatest thanks has to go to them that believe in us and support us.
And thanks to all the folks who like to watch this program, because that's how we disseminate this information. If you have suggestions about where we should go next time, just let us know. If you need more information about our little corner, Hometown Cable, talk to Calvin Castine at Hometown Cable. Hometown is 2 different words. On the Ridge Road in Champlain, that's a beautiful snow owl. Isn't that absolutely incredible? And I don't know who did these. Did we ever find out? I don't know if these were Don Fasking's work or whose these were.
I believe are Don's.
Because we turned around and looked at stuff behind us, but
I was wondering why he didn't show that.
boy, they're beautiful.
I'm saying, oh, wait a minute,
Absolutely
114?
beautiful.
No, this is Clifton Barrett. Did you do him?
Oh, no.
Yeah, this is Clifton Barrett.
1, 14, 15, and 16. Well, wherever you are, Clifton, congratulations. This is kind of spectacular. Wow, that owl is,
Look at the sheen on it.
oh, just absolutely, absolutely beautiful. Special colors. Every artist has his own technique and his own style, and just an absolutely wonderful job. Sylvia, thanks again for inviting us here.
Oh, thank you. It's always an honor to have you here.
There's no question in my mind but that we'll be back again.
And your wonderful cameraman.
And Calvin, so much, because without Calvin pushing that button back there, we'd never do it, and we're partners for a long, long time. And who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner. I fibbed, but it was only a little white lie. The program is not over. We have another artist here. What's your name again?
Leonard Gibbs.
Leonard, we looked at your things before and talked about you without you being here, and we love it. How would anybody ever get interested in carving bone?
Oh, I don't know. I just experimented, that's all. I had our neighbor cuts up deer, during hunting season.
Yeah.
So I go down and I get to ask him for what bone I can get, and then I boil them, bleach them, and this is actually wood burning. I burned them in, because it's a form of scrimshaw. When the sailors used to scrimshaw their ivory,
Sure.
but they used to use soot and oil.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, but I just used a wood burner, experimenting.
I didn't know you could do that with bone, and it turned out pretty good,
Yeah.
and so...
Yeah, see, this is part of a cow horn.
Oh, it is?
It's flattened out, flattened out, and then I put it in there. Actually, that's an accident. I had to have something. I had to have something to fill the hole, right? So I had some horn, and I boiled it and softened it up and got it flat.
So I don't know if other people do this kind of work or not. Do you think you invented this or what?
No. It's, well, it might be a lost art. I don't know. But I had to give a demonstration for scouts.
Oh.
And I said, piece of cake. Well, it wasn't a piece of cake. I went from the library all the way from Augsburg to the library over here to get information on how to do bone. So I remember what my grandmother used to do with soup bones. So I went from there and kept experimenting, and that's what I got.
Well, I'm sure we know that the ancient Native Americans, natives of other cultures, have drawn on bone and tried to carve on bone, but I've never seen anything quite like that. I especially liked this one down here. Everybody seems to like this one. This is really neat. Where did this idea come from?
Oh, this is a Kokopali, and it's a god of fertility. I found that by accident on a little pin. That the Indians like to do this.
Yeah.
And I found it on a little pin. I says, hey, I can put that, enlarge it, and put it on a bone. So these are shoulder blades from deer.
Yeah, that's really neat. And these little guys are called what now?
Well, they're likeness of a Kachina doll. I'm not Hopi or anything, so I can't say they're genuine Kachina dolls. They're not made out of the
There's
same
quite
wood.
a little bit of work that goes into every one of those.
Yeah, these are old piano keys.
Come on. You gotta be kidding.
And those on that one are porcupine quills.
Real porcupine quills?
Yeah.
You are an amazing guy.
And of course, this is a black walnut.
This one, I love it. I love it.
And of course, that's the big bones are soup bones from beef cattle or whatever.
Sure,
Yeah.
we've seen those before.
Yeah.
The smaller version, when I was a kid, where there's a guy in the neighborhood that ever see anybody play the bones? In the old days, they used to
No,
put
but
them between their
spoons. Similar
fingers.
to
Spoons and
similar to
bones,
spoons, yeah.
Mr. Bone, what's that? The Globetrotters? Mr. Bones? Yeah, I
okay,
love it.
yeah, all right,
Yeah. Anyway, it's wonderful to meet you. I'm glad you got here on the tail end of our program.
Just bring it. Yeah.
It's great. Are you working on anything special now, or?
Yeah, I'm working on a flute, Indian flute.
Oh, come on.
It's over there.
Come on, I want to see it. Let's go.
I brought it to show Linda.
Oh, well, we got to see this to close out our program today, and Linda may not get to see it before we did. All right. Got all the parts and the pieces, and
That's for the sounding board.
boy, that's kind of cool. Yeah, what is this now?
This is going to be a flute.
Okay.
I've got it. Here's the sounding board. It goes on here. I cut the holes from there, here, and then there's a little looks like a bird that goes on the top.
Oh.
And this is the board itself for changing the tone. It's going to go on the top. And this is tied down with leather or sinew.
No kidding. Well, we gave you this idea. This is amazing.
I look at in Ben Hunt. I found it in a magazine, or a book made, printed by Ben Hunt. So I work with scouts, and I'm experimenting and see if the older ones would enjoy making something like this. It's old scrap walnut,
Isn't
you know.
that the best?
But
And those two pieces get glued together at some point?
yeah, I have to put 6 holes, 4 inches down and 1 and 5/16 inches apart, 1/4 inch holes.
Then you have to learn to play it after you
Well,
get
that's
it.
right.
I love it. Thank you, my friend. Thank
Yeah,
you for
welcome.
being here today. We're delighted. Thanks to everybody viewing this program. And now I can say it, maybe for the last time on this show, but you never know. Who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.